Welcome back to Videos with Welty. So today we are going to be doing some pressed plant art. So first we need to go out and collect some plants. As you're going around collecting those plants and flowers for your pressed plant art project, it's important to know where you're collecting those flowers from and what flowers you are picking as well. Now, the best place to look for flowers to collect would be your own backyard if you have one. You are not allowed to collect flowers or plants from any county or state parks because the purpose of those parks is to protect those flowers and wildlife in those parks. You'd want to ask for permission first to collect from anybody else's property. Also, it's important to know what kind of flowers you are collecting and what you're picking. So I will attach a link in the video description of some resources to use to help you identify different plants and flowers around Wisconsin. So that'll help you understand and know what flowers you may be picking. So now that I've gathered enough flowers to make our pressed plant art, we're going to jump over now so I can show you how to press those plants and turn them into art. The materials that you will need would be your gathered flowers, and make sure you only pick as many as you will need. You will also need cardboard and newspaper for your plant press. Then you'll need acid-free paper for your pressed plant art. And then you'll need glue or tape to attach your flowers to the paper. And then you'll need large books or heavy objects for pressing your plants. So now that we have collected and gathered our flowers, we can move on to start assembling our pressed plants. So first, you're going to need some either newspaper, or what I'm going to be using today is construction paper and cardboard to assemble kind of my layers also with our books later on, assembling our kind of pressed plant pile. So first I'm going to start with our larger flowers at the bottom. And I'm going to start with the daffodils that I collected. So what you want to do is you want to start assembling them. You can try to fit as many as you can on one sheet. I try to focus on using either the same flower or similar size flowers, because if you have a bigger flower and a smaller flower and it doesn't completely press the smaller flower because it's on the bigger flower, it might be uneven and not press properly. So make sure you're using the same size flower on an individual layer. So I'm starting with these daffodils that are larger. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of assemble them on your paper and kind of press the flower either open or arrange it however way you're going to want it to look after it's done being pressed. Alright, so now that I assembled my daffodils, I'm going to set that into my cardboard area here, and then I'm going to take another piece of paper and set that on top, making sure that my flowers are assembled the way I want them to be. So then what you can do is I'm going to put another piece of paper on here, and then I'm going to put a heavier book on top of that to start our first layer. So we're going to move on. I'm going to push this aside and we're going to move on to our next flower. So I have some purple flowers here that I've collected that are kind of medium-sized flowers, so I'm going to start with those next. And I'm going to arrange them the way I want them to flatten out. I'm also going to take, since I still have more room on my sheet, I'm going to take our smaller flowers here that are about the same size, and then I'm going to set that on there as well. And then I'm going to take that other piece of paper, put that over top, kind of press down a little bit, make sure they're in position, and add that to our pile, just like here. So we have the larger flowers on the bottom and medium-sized flowers, and then if you have even more, like some smaller flowers, you can add another layer on top. Now what you're going to do is you're going to want to add as many books or weight as possible to flatten out your flowers. So you want to make sure that they're evenly pressing out those flowers. So I mean, the heavier the better without going too crazy, but enough to have enough weight on top to press those flowers. So I might even, once I've set this where I want, I'm going to set a weight on top. More weight. Now what you're going to do is you're going to set this in a place where it's nice and dry. and out of the way so you don't disturb it. I usually have it set out for about 2 weeks, and then you can check them, and if they're still not quite as pressed or dry as you want them to be, wait another week or so for them to officially be pressed and dried out. For then you can make your pressed plant art. So I've already collected and gathered these flowers from a couple weeks ago, and I pressed them, and they are now completely dry and pressed the way I think I really like them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some either acid-free printer paper, or you can also take construction paper as long as it's acid-free, or you can also take a journal and start making a pressed plant journal if you'd like to practice and use for learning your different types of flowers in the area. If you have a journal, it might be easier to just put a little bit of Scotch tape on to hold it in place. Then you can write and label that plant in that journal and collect it over time. So creating a pressed plant journal to keep track of what flowers might have bloomed in your yard. So I'm going to use some acid-free white paper, and then I'm going to arrange these flowers the way I want them on my sheet first. And then I'll use glue. I'm just going to be using Elmer's glue today, and that might make it a little bit cleaner if you decide to frame this or preserve this and use it as a gift or hang it in your own house. Now that I've assembled them on my piece of paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some glue, and I'm going to use, you can use either a paintbrush or a sponge brush or something to help spread the glue onto the back of the flower. And then you're going to let it dry for a little bit, and after it dries you can always add a book on top to make sure that it stays glued in place. And then after a while you should make sure that they're glued down all the way, and then you have a beautiful piece of art. So thank you all for joining me and learning about doing some pressed plant art. I hope you get a chance to make some beautiful art. So thanks for joining me today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.